you kind of were locked up a little bit. So.
Oh, did I? Okay.
Yeah. So, what do we hear from customers? We hear about there's three types of customers. We want to know data. We hear about individuals. I like flexibility. I like working from home. We hear about, how can we improve their lives? We hear about managers. Are managers doing a good job? And how can they be more productive? And then we have leaders who are like our vice presidents, our CEOs, those kind of people. They want to know how they can move everything in an organization and get that all lined up, get everybody going the right way, be productive and focused, and keep and retain good people. Jay, you said you could talk to this one. I didn't know if you still want to.
I did, but then you started talking and I blinked. So please continue.
So we're going to look at the analytics that we get from three different perspectives is really basically where we're going. And I will side rail to something that Jay mentioned, that this is looking at the softer side. What I love this product. When we get into workplace analytics, you'll see kind of why, but everybody goes into this. We start talking about data insights and everybody goes, oh, I'm going to get data. I'm going to be able to analyze it, cut it in 9 different ways and do all this. And I can see what each individual employee is doing. And it's not really what the idea behind the product is. You're going to get a lot of data in the backside, but it's those conversations that data sparks that gets me excited. When you start talking to organizations about how they can better manage their employees, how they can make their managers be better with their direct reports, and how as an organization we can transform something like meeting culture and get rid of big, costly, wasteful meetings and maybe streamline those a little bit better. Those are the exciting part. And I've had, every time I've delivered to a customer and got them up and running in workplace analytics, they've looked at the data and go a couple different things. They go, oh, wow, this is something should know about, or man, this is awesome. This pays for the price of the tool right by itself. But I'll show you some examples of that later. But we've been talking about customer experience, and keeping employees and employee retention is really high, but making sure that our employees are being more productive can be very beneficial to a customer. That's why organizations are looking into tools like this to promote greater profitability, innovation, better satisfaction, and it always comes down to return on investments and those kind of things. And we can see that the numbers for the organizations that focus on making sure that their employees are happy, they just get better numbers overall.
Yeah, one of the things that struck me as Craig and I have talked over this the last few months is this is not much different than the conversations I have on the information architecture side. So Joy Apple and I gave a presentation today about the importance of information architecture and how information architecture is flat in Microsoft 365 today. And one of the things we talked about is what kind of benefits do you get out of this, and why is it important to spend the time to plan how to flatten your architecture, how to connect things, how to build a navigation that makes sense. And it's the same concept that you have here. By putting the time in, by spending the time to understand, are my employees engaged? Are they well connected? Are they burning out? You can start to get a return on investment by correcting the ship to help make sure that they do make connections, to help make sure that they aren't burning out, to make sure that they have the time to relax and not calm down, but to relax and want to come back. And so these stats really kind of hit home for me, again, as a technologist, where I'm always saying, well, the reason you have to spend time planning for your information architecture is you get benefits X, Y, and Z. And here are the same examples, but this time from an employee experience and wellness perspective.
Cool, thanks. So how do we measure day-to-day activities? So what we're going to do is be getting the data out of Exchange and Teams for the most part, and we can look at things like how people are sharing information, what customers are they interacting to, who are they collaborating with, where are they collaborating with, How often are they meeting with their managers? Are they having one-on-ones with their managers? Are they not having one-on-ones with their managers? How are they spending their time? So this is some of the stuff that we can actually look in and start to measure. One of the things I get though when we start talking about this is, oh my God, my manager can see everything that I do. This is not meant to be a monitoring tool. There are better tools out there if I want to see everything that you're doing. So what we're going to do is take this data and aggregate it in groups of, for the most part, we recommend 10 or more. It will do 5 or more if they're senior level managers, because normally they don't have 10 direct reports, and it de-identifies the people. So it brings it in and we de-identify the data, and then we're just using metadata to kind of make those decisions based on what a department might be doing or what a group might be doing, or a location might be doing, because we can use your organizational data to help group people into things. So I just wanted to throw that out there quick. And then can we look at? Harness the power of everyday work with intelligence. So meeting quality, what does that mean? That means, like, are they effective meetings? Effective meeting is usually like a half hour with 3 to 8 people in it. We call those decision-making meetings. Are they ineffective meetings? Are they longer than 2 hours? Do they have multiple levels of management there? Are people multitasking while they're doing that? Are they sending emails out and not paying attention? And how many emails are they doing? Managers' time. What is managers doing? Are they overbooked? Are they spending time one-on-ones? Are they spending time, what we call co-attending with their employees? So you ever sit in a meeting and have your manager sit right next to you and be going, well, why am I even here? Couldn't he have come here? Or couldn't I have come here by myself and just have just reported back to my manager? So we talk about delegation. We talk about that. Network size, I've already talked about. Collaboration hours. How many hours a day or week are we spending? Jay, you ever feel like you spent 35 hours of a 40-hour work week in meetings?
Oh, I can show you calendars where I actually have.
Yeah, and then when are you getting your actual work done?
Yeah, that's a problem. This week is compounded by the conference, but that's a very real problem, and I'm guessing that some of you have also felt that. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So we can look at those kind of things and make better decisions on how we're doing that.
Yeah. So really, the important thing being shown on this particular slide is that this is a process. This is not a turn it on and all of a sudden you're better. You start by getting these insights, getting recommendations, getting the statistics, so that you can then start to develop goals. Those goals can be the importance of making goals in this kind of an environment is doing things that are quantifiable. While qualitative stuff is important, quantitative stuff allows you to show progress. And in an arena where you're trying to show productivity improvements, quantitative things are very important. So you want to build SMART goals based on those insights. Areas to improve can become surfaced, and then you have the ability to show that improvement over time. And as you do that, you can start to operationalize. Take the goals that have worked in one area and start sharing them in other areas. And take the statistics and the governance of those statistics and start pushing that across the system. And eventually you get to a place where you have that workplace transformation, that the ability to have the insights guiding or driving the way people work, driving the way your employees connect with each other, and the way that they take time off, frankly. Whether it's the commute on their way home, which I haven't had in far too long, or it's the other thing I was going to say that I totally blanked on when I saw Craig laugh at my corny joke.
No, that was actually good. But what I did love about it and what you said was digital transformation, right? For how long have we been hearing about digital transformation? And that was a lot of that is just directed in let's move from servers to cloud, right? And give people new ways to work, but not looking at, is that actually making them better workers, right?
Yep.
So I think this just goes into an extra piece to help with the digital transformation process to make it smarter, more actionable items, and then measure if people are being more productive and seeing that those investments that you are making towards digital transformation are paying off.
Yep.
Alrighty. So we've talked a little bit about what it is. This is more what you see as a user experience for Viva Insights. So it is a Teams, I don't want to call it, it's a Teams, Viva Insights in and of itself is a Teams-based app, but it gets its data from a number of different locations. So if you want to have Viva Insights, you would come over to the App Store and you would look for Insights and just pin it to your side. And this is what a user will see. Basically, the first tab they're going to get on here is a Home tab. And this is for all my users, right, who have Office 365 license, who have Teams licenses. And really what this is doing is surfacing MyAnalytics to them, so that all, if you have MyAnalytics running in Outlook, you get those emails, you get those notifications, maybe those prompts that say, hey, do you want to send this email now, or do you want to wait and send it at 8 in the morning when somebody's working? Those kind of prompts. So this is the little dashboard that I was talking about, that takes that and throws it right in your face. And some key areas on that is, hey, your schedule doesn't have focus plans on it. Do you want some focus plans? Coaching time. Might be a good idea to find some time for coaching, right? We come over here and we're talking about, you may want to book time to learn more with LinkedIn Learning. So those kind of things. Give your mind a break, little helpful processes for your well-being. This one I was talking about, the virtual commute, end your day by closing out your task. Let's reflect on what we're doing. We got the how are we feeling scenario there. And then as it is Teams, we want it to function on any device, right? So we also want to be able to view it on our mobile Teams app. So this just shows that it can be there and you get much of the same thing. So again, it's like surfacing MyAnalytics for this page. So the next page, and this is where I get more excited about and where you really start to see the data for the organization, is the Mind Team tab. So when we talked about the home was for the individual. The My Team is for the managers. We talked about that a little bit earlier. This lets me see, what am I doing as a manager? What are my people are doing? So we talked about working after hours, because Jay has been in meetings all his working hours. He's got to spend some time doing that. So if I've got 20% of my employees working for 5 or more hours, might be normal, but do you want that? And these are the people that are going to run risks of burnout, right? Yeah. Opportunities to free up capacity, and who's got quiet hours and those kind of things. So we've got outcomes, we've got some employee effectiveness, we've got some team effectiveness that we can look at. And this would be surfaced up to a manager if they had enough people to have that surface to them. So this just kind of goes in there. The nice thing is, we have the little dashboard. What they come with is view this recommended plan. This is one of my things that I like best about the product, is it tells you, hey, these are some things that you can do. You can turn off notifications. You can set boundaries or decline meetings after hours, right? You can prioritize your day. And then this is a link to a habits playbook. So it will give you even more advice on how you can do these kind of things. We'll show that in a little bit. And then the big one is from my org. So as a leader, you would get this as an organization. So it's kind of seeing what is going on as your organization as a dashboard, easy to digest for our employees. And we can see that we've got a bunch of different things that we can look at. And this is really, we're going to get to MyAnalytics or Workplace Analytics, but this is really surfacing the Workplace Analytics information right into Teams for leaders to get digestible information so that they can make better decisions. And then if they need it, they can ask their analysts to go into Workplace Analytics and get them the reports and things when they get it, when they have, when they know more about what they're looking for. What is also nice too is that they have some Power BI dashboards that we can link into too, that will show us more detail on what is actually going on in the organization, what kind of reports they're running, and those kind of things, and who's been having the most change. So this one's talking about how business continuity has changed. And this was originally in a pre and post pandemic type of organization. We're looking at that. And then we've got well-being. We can start looking at who's spending the most time across the things and some of the other information that comes with that. And then we're back to insights.
Hey, Craig, before we move on to the next section, there's a question in the chat. Do you know if there's a plan to include Viva in the Transform site or to the CIEs so that we can start to demonstrate and engage with potential clients?
No. Yes, there's a plan. No, I don't know the timeline. I've been asking for it, but I will get to it. How you can demo some of it to a client. Yeah, I don't like it, but we're working on it. They've got all the other ones in there, but they're trying to. So I wish it was, because it would make my job a lot easier. So this is talking about how it works. We get that native information from Microsoft 365 data, like I said, Teams and Exchange, and we'll get a little bit more into detail on what that is. We have the governance and control that you would expect from an M365 product, so we can make sure that all that we're doing as best as we can to make sure that your data is private and meets all the data regulations that we can.
And then we combine that with context, and this is where it becomes very important. So it's not just about the statistics, but it's about the organization as well. You have to think about the type of organization, what the way this group is meant to work. If you're looking at busy schedules because they're in calendars all day, but they're help desk people who are supposed to be in meetings all day, then, and I'm making a very broad generalization there, then you can enhance the context of that to make sure that the information you're getting makes sense for that particular group. It also requires, and as you were going through that early section, if this is all new to you, you might be thinking this, it requires buy-in. Like surfacing the My Team or the My Org dashboards to leaders and managers that don't believe in this doesn't help. So again, that business context, again, I keep going back to that softer skill side. It's very important for this to actually provide value, and that's where you start to see change.
Yeah. And then taking all that and then doing something with it. So this is, we just talk a little bit more about what I had. So we will share the slides out. And as a note for that, there are some other slides that I don't think we're going to get to that provide more of that back information if you have to share it with customers. But we're going to be moving into a demo pretty soon. But yeah, so we got data-driven insights for the individuals. So we got those little dashboards that they can see, and then actionable items that they can do. We also have that same thing going for the managers. So we have the manager dashboards, this is just kind of rehashing, and then again, more plans and things that we can create. And this would be how we would do it in Workplace Analytics, create a plan that we can measure and track information about. And then we have that same thing coming with leaders. So we just have a little bit more sophisticated dashboards. We have a little bit more querying when we're doing the whole organization, and we can do some pretty cool dashboards and some pretty graphics and reports to be able to share that. And then our key partner with that is going to become the analyst who can get us that information out of Workplace Analytics. So what are we looking at right now? The components of that for the personal insights, again, that is going to be MyAnalytics. And that's what we're surfacing up in that home tab. And these are the other ways that you can look at that. So the insights suggestion for Outlook, it does require an M365 license. And then you can get that out of Outlook in the briefing information too. But Viva Insights surfaces it to where your employees are working. The manager insights and leader insights are unique. It's also surfacing it in the Teams app, but to really look at that kind of stuff, you want to go into Workplace Analytics and look at that, or you may want to do that. And that requires a special license. Workplace Analytics right now, list price is $5 per user per month. But like I want to say, you don't necessarily need to assign it to every user in your organization. You want to assign it to people who are working in Outlook, working in Teams, people that have that measurable data. I don't want to assign a license to somebody who doesn't work in those kind of things because they ain't going to have anything to measure, right? So if I've got a line worker or something that's just kind of doing their job and occasionally they check their email, but if they're not regularly working with Teams or Outlook or those kind of tools, then we will look at them as being other people. And then the analyst tools, that requires, again, workplace analytics, and they're going to be the people working primarily in workplace analytics, which we'll get to. So how do we get our data set? I mentioned this. We assign a license to somebody. We process the data that is coming through Teams and whatever. We map them to attributes, and then we de-identify that data. So we strip out the identifiable data so that we're not spying on people, really, and can meet the different data requirement laws like GDPR. So, and then this just talks about privacy, because I always get asked about privacy, and these are some of the things that we do. We're only pulling metadata from there. We're not pulling the actual bodies of emails or the bodies of chats that we talk about. We are doing things like seeing when you send that, what are the subject lines, and you can actually turn them off. You can decide what populations that you want to have that you're measuring, right? You can, if you've got somebody that's going to be like a mergers and acquisition, that might be sensitive information, you don't have to measure those people. We can also slice up the way that we're doing how people can analyze it, and they can only see certain groups. And then some of it is, access, who's got access to what data, who's got access to the workplace analytic tools, and just running rules and stuff for excluding what we don't want to look at. And then this is just the kind of overall how the process works. We get the data source, it goes into workplace analytics. We get your organizational data is what Jay likes to look at. So we might want to look at things like departments, regions, levels, manager titles. Pay is always important because that's how we see if things are, our meetings are expensive. So you can enter the person's hourly rate there. If you don't want to do that, the default is $75 an hour. Figures that's what the normal person on average for an entire organization with benefits would make. You can change the default on that. If you don't feel that your company is paying that high, you can lower that down, but there is a default value. But that's the way we can say we've got 20 people in a 2-hour meeting, right? And they all make, well, I'm going to say $100 an hour because I can't do math right, but that becomes an expensive meeting. So do the math for me, Jay. How much is expensive that is?
$1,500.
There you go. So those kind of things. And this is where we're talking about, and going a little bit quickly because otherwise we're going to roll out of time, organizational data, where we add the context that Jay said was important, where we can look at function type, hire date, other things, cost units, departments, regions, and put all of that information in. And that just gives us more and more value to the data that we're looking at. Anything to add to that, Jay?
Nope, you're doing great, Craig.
Alrighty, so workplace analytics, there are 4 roles basically that we have. So we have the admin who sets everything up. We have the limited analyst who has access to the homepage, which will make more sense when we actually share the homepage, workplace analytics, big build up. The workplace analytics who has everything, can run all the special queries, the reports, and all those kind of things. And we have a program manager who can manage plans for improvement and those kind of things. So we have different levels of the data. And then what I love about this slide is it talks about trust, because a lot of questions I have is, well, if you're looking at my data, how do I know that it's safe? And we do everything we can by making sure that it's protected, that we're locked down, that we get different levels for people to access, that we're de-identifying it. But some of that is going to rely on you to make sure that you're giving people the proper access to that so that they can't run the queries that you think they can do. So they're not just combing through the data looking for key people. Because let's be honest, if I know of a meeting that's going on and 20 people are invited to it, I can pare it down to kind of figure out maybe who might be in that meeting or that kind of thing. So if I really want to dig in the data and start doing some comparisons, I can probably do that. So you got to trust who you're giving access to the data and that they're using it for good reasons.
The last statement, literally the last few words you just said, are something else I want to make sure we cover, and that's that you need to help people see that it's being used for good reasons. So this is a trust between you and your employees perspective. Workplace analytics, super powerful, really has the means to shape how an organization treats its employees, staffs, teams, etc. But for people to believe it isn't just Big Brother, you have to help them see what this information is being used for. That means making it part of their their assessments. It means and in doing so, not just pointing at them going, this, you're doing all these things wrong, but it means helping them see how it can improve their career, their longevity, and et cetera. So the word trust, I know it probably on this slide is more designed to be about security, but I also want you as a organization to be thinking about it from how do we actually communicate to our staff the value of this information to the organization and to the individuals. Again, going back to SharePoint, we talk about the WIFM, the what's in it for me. I think that's very important here as well.
Sweet. I would love to. So let's see. I am going to talk about, this is a slide. You can look at it. I'm going to whiz through this one, but basically we're going to look at 3 different levels of data. Data at face value as we compare it to different organizations, different parts of the organization, and the contextual data to kind of see how work gets done. I'm just going through it quickly. You can read it. I have a reason for that because I want to get to this slide, and this shows you exactly what data we're looking at, because people always ask me that. We're looking at the email items, we're looking at senders, recipients, subject lines, send time, organizers, invitees, subject lines, scheduled times, attendee status, scheduled locations, calls, originators, invitees, scheduled times, call and join status, and then we're just looking at who you're doing. We're not looking at the bodies of emails or calendar information or any like that kind of information. So again, we're not looking to see, is Bob talking to his teacher or is he talking to his wife or anything like that. One of the things with the meeting is, we're not looking to see if you have a meeting, like if you set up a meeting because you're going to take your daughter to school and you don't invite anybody, we don't look at those meetings. Any personal one-on-one meetings we don't look at. And we have ways to take out subject lines. So if we say personal time is an exclusion, we would just tell our employees to put personal time in the subject of that meeting, or vacation or holiday or something like that. So there is a little bit of training if you want to do that. I'm going to skip this. This is an important part to know that we have 3 levels of designation for employees when we do that. And measured employees is the one that's important to us. So are they internal? Do they have a license? Then they're measured employees. So we have other people who we might not want to measure. Again, your restaurant workers, your servers, your cashiers, people who aren't in Outlook, resource mailboxes, domain distribution list, group mailboxes. We want to know what's going in and out of those things, but we don't necessarily want to measure those. So those wouldn't have a license. Anybody that falls in that is going to be called an internal collaborator. And then obviously if they're external, they're going to be called an external collaborator. And then the last slide I want to go in before I bring up workplace analytics is how we measure people and times. So typically we work at a work week, and the work week span is when you send your first digital signal to the time you send your last digital signal. So it's going to probably be longer than, especially if people are working from home, than what you would normally get, but that's what we look at. So
I send a lot of digital signals all day long.
Yeah, so we do have a limit on 16 hours. So if you're doing it within 16 hours, the most that you're going to get is 16 hours per day. We have normal office hours. Those are usually in your Outlook. It's set up by an organization and you can change that. So that's what would be considered a normal working time. And then we look at collaboration hours, or when you're at meetings, chatting, meetings with more than one person, ad hoc team calls, all those kind of things. Fragmented hours are the time split into shorter blocks. So we have found that if you don't have enough time between meetings, like a half hour, you get done with your meeting, you get up, you go to the bathroom, you get a drink of water, and then you're back in another meeting. You don't do anything productive. So we try to get you to put things more, schedule the meetings together with bigger blocks of time in between. And then we kind of work at work week span. So how much time are we spending over the entire day? And that is what I can cover without, there are more slides here if you guys want more information, but I am wanting to jump into the tool because I think once you start looking at the tool, it all starts to become concrete. So if you log into Workplace Analytics and you're a limited analyst or you're an analyst, this is the main page. So there's a lot of things here that are pretty cool that you won't normally think of. First of all, we have a home tab, we have an analyze tab, we have plans tab, and a settings tab. I am going to skip down to settings. So the settings is where I would set it up and how the things. The sources is the type of data that I have in my system. So right now I've got 230, 2,000 people. This is kind of a cool chart. It shows how things have been doing over time. Chatting, I can see some, I see some spikes here where people were probably off or we just went up onto time. Get some dips around the holiday, but just a general overall tracking of what's going on. I can look at my organizational data and see what I have in here. So group names, group numbers, that kind of stuff. So this is information that would be loaded that I would want to slice my data by. So like a domain, if I had more than one domain, like some large corporations have multiple domains. Function types might be, are they a director? Are they a manager? Are they in sales, marketing, those kind of things? And then we can pull in some CRM data in there too. And then from here, we can set up, this is where we would set up our exclusions, things that we don't want to appear in our queries when we go to run queries against the data. But the main one is this page. So we have 9 dashboards that we at Microsoft have found that this is what our customers are looking at mostly. This will tell you up here what your organizational data is, and it looks back over a 6-month period of time. So it's a rolling 6-month and updates every week. Tells you how many employees, how many team members you have, how many managers you are, how many large teams, and how many levels. So levels would be individual contributor, maybe senior contributors, managers, developers, those kind of things. What's awesome about these are if you click on that, you get the new, let's go back one. You get a dashboard and it tells you 62% of employees have less than 15 one-on-one times with their managers. That's not a good stat. And if I click on this is some cool. It tells me resiliency depends on having right insights in the time. So it's telling you what it would do and what specifically we are going to measure. If I want to deep dive farther in it, I get little dashboards that are even more insightful. So what makes up that process? We're seeing here 46% of employees are working after hours for more than 5 hours a week. Probably more than that, but we got 46 of that. What's great is every little dashboard like this, and this is what gets me excited, has a link to supporting evidence. So if I click on that, it's going to take me to a little help article. I'll let that load. That tells me what I can do about it. So it gives me some tips and things like that. So as a user, I don't have to figure that out, right? Like normally you get data and then you got to do what's the next step. So we put it right in the tool. And then if I want to see what we're actually measuring, we tell you that. So you mouse over and we can see what that is. Do I want to see more insights on that? Yeah. So if I click on that, it tells me that some things that I can do to help my employees disconnect. I can always click on these links to learn more about that. That's going to take me to something here, or it gives me a little bit more granular, or I can explore this even deeper. So now I have some pretty cool little dashboards in here that I can go through and see the data. And I don't even have to do anything. It's all automatically created. If I want to, I can change the date range. I can change what I'm looking at. So if I wanted to look at by hire date or layer, I could kind of do that. Let's go back a dashboard. Oh, I got to apply it. So now I can look at different, well, layer's not a good one because I just have numbers in there. So let's see, function type. So I can see by sales, marketing, operations, engineering, some useful stuff here if I want to start comparing it. So let's go back here. So each one has that thing. And what's great about this is if I click this little nugget down here, it's going to download a file to my computer. If I have that, hopefully it didn't take that long. Oh, there it goes. It's downloading now. Come on. Get there. Open the file. It's going to open it on my other computer, on my other thing. We get this. So it basically creates its own little PowerPoint presentation with all of that information in there that you can use to tell your senior leadership what's going on, right? And it's got all the links in it, all the information, 41 pages, right, for them to go over. So all that information that's surfaced on those dashboards is easily exported out to a presentation that you can do something with, and you can change it and you can update it and you can do your own things with it. But that would be it. The other thing that I like about it is it's got help. So if I click on the documentation for my help, it will tell me all the different things that I can do here, which is pretty standard, right? But pretty cool. And then the other one that is really important that I get asked a lot is this resource playbook. So if I click on this, it's going to take here. And we've got playbooks designed already. We keep adding more of these for things that you can do, that you can run queries with. It creates a PDF and tells you what you should do with the queries, what queries you should run, what things that you can access, all of this cool information that, you know, normally it would take you weeks to put together. We kind of can approach it to you so that you can level that up. So that's what's kind of out of the box on the front page, right? And that would be pretty cool in and of itself and leads to some great conversation, especially if we start looking at like effective managers and we can start seeing where people are or where they live or those kind of things. Where it really gets kind of cool is where we can come down and do queries on the data. So we have several different queries that I can run. A person query is the important one, or one of the two important ones. We have the manager query and the person query. So as a person query, I'm querying people to see what they're doing. So if I click on this, I can get all of this information. What are they doing after hours? Are they in calls? Call hours, collaboration, email hours, email sent, network size. So I can pick all of these and put it down here. And then if I want to filter that, I can add a filter on it and I could say day of the week equals Tuesday, right? If I just want to see what they're doing on Tuesday for some reason, or I can do, let's go back. Initiator is somebody in engineering. So we have the ability to not just take as a whole, but I can do this when I do a filter on it and just get some data if I'm looking for that. Then down here, I can pick who I want to do, all employees, active employees, inactive employees. So active employees are employees that have done something. So if they're on vacation or out for or whatever, they don't show up on my report, but all employees is what you would want. And then down here, I can say, what do I want to look at? Besides the data that's in Teams, how do I want to cut across that by domain, function type, layers, and stuff like that? So that is a person query. And then for a meeting query, we take it from the meetings point of view. So then we're looking at who were the attendees? Were the attendees multitasking? We call it multitasking if the average attendee is sending more than 2 emails. So during the course of the meeting. So if I have an hour-long meeting, 10 people and over 20 emails are sent out, that's considered multitasking. Conflicting schedules is always important. Employees sent during meeting, emails sent during meeting, invitees, redundant attendees. Redundant attendees are when we have you, your manager, and your manager's manager. Then we start to go, hey, maybe somebody could be delegating here. Why do we all need to be in that? So we'll start looking at that. So we have the ability to create queries as we want, but then if you look down here, we've got some that we've already built for you. So the ways of working one is actually pretty cool because we already built it out. So we've got emails sent for 50, we've got emails to 1, we've got it all built out, and all you have to do is come and plus run, right? And it will do that. And we'll look at 6 months, and I can change any of these up, but these are pretty powerful in and of themselves. And what's also nice is anything with a little Power BI symbol here means that we've created a Power BI template for you. So I can run these two together and it will tell me that if I want the Power BI template, then I need to run it with this. But when the results come, I see my results, and sometimes they'll have the visualization, so I can click on that. But for this one, ways of working, if I click on that, that's not what I wanted. Ways of working assessment. Oh, download. If I go to download, I'm going to get this Power BI template. So it will download a template. When I go to click on it, then I'll grab the OData source for that, and I can just get my source and put that right into Power BI. And I've already done that. So we can look at this one, hopefully. Let's go to the front page. So it's going to, these are multi-tabbed reports that will let me slide up here what I want to look at, who I want to look at, and give me information about what they're doing. So when people start to see this is where it becomes kind of cool, because then it's not as threatening as you would think it would be, right? And we can look at the introduction page, which will tell me what each of the things that we're looking for, how they're acting after hours. So basically it's links to each of these tabs, but what they're doing. And then if I go to this collaboration after hours, then I'm going to see like inventory managers are collaborating for 23.6 hours, and they have the most after hours collaboration, which would make sense, but I can see that and I can drill down farther on it. I can filter on it. I can click on focus mode. I can do a lot of things, but what's really nice about these reports is that it tells you what you should be looking at and why it matters. And workplace analytics is very driven by why it matters. You know, we want to reduce burnout. We want to make sure that our employees are doing well at their job, that they like it, that they'd like to stay, because one of the most costly things for an organization is when people leave. You lose the person, you lose their knowledge, you have to rehire them. So that means a job post, that means time spent by HR having to put that out there, any recruiting costs like that. Then we're start looking at interviewing skills and all those kind of things that go along with that. And I know, like at Microsoft, we require everybody to go through 4 interviews for an hour, right? So that's 4 hours of other employees' times that they can't be billing. So that becomes really expensive fast. So if we start looking at collaboration time, you can see where all this stuff becomes kind of pretty cool. We've got our large meetings. Who's eating time? I can't think of where all the other ones that I want are, but we're getting here. Let's see. There's this one. I don't have any, but bloated meetings. This is usually pretty, a share amount of time for people. Bloated meetings are those 19 to 50. They go for 2 hours. They're really expensive, and those are the meetings you're going, why am I here? But we get this little thing up here that says 748 hours are spent in large meetings. That's the equivalent of 346 full-time employees. This one is also a pretty good one when we talk about employees. Who's getting time with their managers for one-on-ones? Are they being coached? Are they getting career development? Where that becomes important is, a lot of times your manager will say, well, I see my employee every day. But are you having those discussions about how are they doing? Are you teaching them to be better? Are you having career planning types of meetings, or are you just seeing them? And are you seeing them because you're doing this one here, which is the co-attendance, right? Are you attending meetings with them, and why are you attending meetings with them? Do they need to be there? Are you micromanaging them? Those kind of things. For some organizations, and this is where we get into context, if I've got a team where my people have all been there for 5 years, right, and they know what they're doing and they are good with what they are, they don't need as much one-on-one management, right? But if they're all new people, then I probably want to have those kind of things. And then we get manager relations and all that. So we can start drilling down on all of this stuff. And I think it's really cool. And it kind of gets me excited when we start talking about it. Let me see. I have one other thing if I can find it. Countries, members. Let me go back here. The other one is that you can just download and get the raw CSV file. So if you just want to look at the actual data, which this one becomes kind of important when we start looking at meetings and what could possibly be expensive meetings. Come on, it's opening, but slowly. Come on. There we go. So here is a nice one. And so some of the data that you can look at, it'll show you like a meeting number, when it started times, total number of people, total number of attendees. There's a cost in here, and I'm looking for that. Total meeting cost. So if we format that to look like $1, right? And then we do this and filter it. I can see where my really expensive meetings are coming from too. So like I can see that this meeting costs basically for these 700, right? We got 65 attendees. We've got a lot of stuff going on. And I ran this report for a customer of mine that has a finance meeting that happens every 2 weeks. So they had 71 employees in that meeting. On average, for the meetings that they were having, they were sending out over 250 emails, so people aren't paying attention. There was 4 levels of managers in that meeting, and half of the people in that meeting were double booked, and the total cost for that meeting was $13,000. So at best, you're talking, if they're only meeting 20 times a year, $260,000 for that meeting over the course of the year. So is that a good meeting? It could be, but are you getting $260,000 worth of benefits from that? And that's what they wanted to take back and look at. They weren't saying it was a bad meeting. They were saying, can we streamline it? Can we make it an hour? Does it need to be 2 hours? Do we need all these people in here? Or can they be going to these other meetings that they're double booked? And that's a really low-hanging fruit, is when you start looking at the cost of meetings and going, how do we make meetings more efficient and make sure that we're getting all the value out of it?
So I'm going to stop you.
I was going to say, so that's about my hour, and I think that's all I can show. There's some cool stuff in it. You just have to play with it. But I think you can see the value of being able to look at some of that data.
Yeah, if you have any questions, clearly Craig is the person to reach out to on this one. As he mentioned, he's one of, I think, 2 people in all of Microsoft US that are running around the country talking about this. But more importantly, he really understands the technology behind the science that supports organizations attempting to improve employee experience with especially the craziness that we've gone through over the last year. Craig, thank you for including me. And all of our attendees, thank you for joining us today. Feel free to...
I got one last thing before we leave.
Of course you do.
I'm sorry, but somebody asked about it. Let's see. No, there is... Where is it? Just because I want to have it. Somewhere in here is the Power BI templates, and I can't find it right now. Overview. So some of this in here, you can't really do it, but if you click on some of these, they have videos on what we're measuring. So examples of what you want to do. And I'm looking for the queries, analyze. If we get into the Power BI templates, so again, you can get through the help, but the Power BI templates are pretty cool, because if you go on here, it will tell you what we're looking for, but all of them have living interactive demos of what we're doing. So basically, instead of downloading it, right, you've got it right here, and you can walk through it, and it's clickable, and it's got all 18 tabs that are there. So this is what I would say if I had to demo it to a client. I didn't have a demo, start coming here and looking through this analyze portion of the documentation and the tools, and they're pretty much live living demos that have been surfaced in here. So that I've had a couple times where Power BI didn't want to cooperate with me, but I could come in here and you can see that it does that. So that is the other thing that I wanted to cover, and that was just based on the question. Sorry, Jay.
No, it's all good. All right, it is 6:02 in Chicago.